It starts, as always, with a whisper. League officials are watching Jerry Jones closely, combing through suspicious dinners and private jets tracked by Twitter sleuths. If the allegations are true, secret overtures to Shedeur Sanders, contact with Deion Sanders outside protocol, then the NFL has a full-blown scandal on its hands. Jones's pattern is clear. Push the line, then erase it.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
His endgame isn't just acquiring Sanders, it's toppling the league's illusion of control. Meanwhile, Shedeur is caught between compliance and stardom, watching teams weigh his value like a currency too volatile to ignore. In a league obsessed with image and order, Jones's chaos is a provocation. His pursuit of Sanders tests not just league rules, but the league's very authority. What's at stake here isn't one team's future. It's whether the NFL can still enforce its own rules when its most powerful figures choose to ignore them. The NFL is no stranger to power struggles, but what's unfolding right now, with Jerry Jones, Shedeur Sanders, and the chaos rippling across the league is something different. This isn't just a front office maneuver. It's not just a quarterback prospect being evaluated for his arm, his vision, or his stats. This is a collision of legacy, branding, greed, and ambition, driven by one of the league's most powerful and controversial figures, and centered around a player who hasn't even declared for the draft yet. At the center of this entire situation is Jerry Jones, owner, GM, media magnate, and self-appointed architect of the Cowboys' eternal relevance. And while most owners stay behind the scenes, Jones never does. He's reportedly orchestrating a bold, behind-the-scenes campaign to bring Shedeur Sanders to Dallas. Not through the draft in the traditional sense, but through a long-game strategy rooted in secret meetings, closed-door discussions, and carefully placed whispers that push the boundaries of what's legal in the NFL. It's the kind of strategy only someone like Jerry can even think about attempting. Because this isn't about scouting. It's not about waiting for draft order. It's about trying to create a gravitational pull so strong that it reorients the conversation entirely. That's how Jerry operates. He doesn't play within the system. He tries to reshape it around his vision. And Shedeur Sanders, as a once-in-a-generation media and athletic hybrid, fits that vision perfectly. From what's been reported, Jones believes Sanders is not just a franchise quarterback. He's the future of the Cowboys brand. This isn't just about football. This is about building an empire. He's allegedly willing to give up whatever it takes. First-round picks, star players, whatever's required. The scale of the potential trade rumors mirrors something like the Herschel Walker trade, but in reverse. Instead of offloading a star for picks, Jerry's ready to burn picks and assets to secure a singular player who could change the Cowboys' trajectory for the next decade. Shedeur, meanwhile, is already positioned as a cultural force. He's not in the NFL yet, but jersey sales are already up. Social media is already watching his every move. Thanks to his father, NFL Hall of Famer and current Colorado coach Deion Sanders, he's been groomed in the spotlight. That spotlight has only grown brighter, making him as marketable as any young athlete in football today. And Jerry sees that. He sees a quarterback who is already a brand, already a spectacle, and already able to elevate the Cowboys beyond the gridiron. But it's not just about Jerry and Shedeur. The other part of this story, the one getting increasingly messy, is the Cleveland Browns. They're reportedly torn between two internal factions. One side is playing it cool, preaching patience. They want to wait it out, let Shedeur develop, and stick to the football blueprint. The other side is watching the headlines, the hype, and the business potential, and they're practically begging the franchise to act fast. That internal split has led to what sources are calling PCB, pressure, bidding, chaos. The Browns are caught in a branding tug-of-war. Do they prioritize stability and development? Or do they make a power move to get in on the Shedeur sweepstakes before Jerry Jones claims the spotlight? Right now they can't decide, and that hesitation might be exactly what cost them. And while the Browns are stalling, Jones is allegedly moving quietly but efficiently. The kind of efficiency that comes from decades of running the league's biggest franchise like a private enterprise. When Jerry makes a move, It's never just about next season. It's about the Cowboys as a global brand. That's why acquiring Sanders isn't just an on-field decision. It's a legacy move. It's also a risk. Because let's be clear, what Jones is allegedly doing walks a fine line between aggressive recruiting and a full-on league violation. Tampering rules exist to stop this kind of thing. And while nothing concrete has been proven, the whispers are growing louder. Anonymous sources, private dinners, shady intermediaries. The league office is watching, and not because it wants to be entertained. If evidence surfaces that shows the Cowboys broke protocol, league sanctions are a very real possibility. Fines, draft pick losses, public embarrassment. But so far, nothing has landed. And Jerry, as always, operates like a man who knows exactly how far he can push before someone steps in. That's the league's problem. They've built a system with rules, but those rules are only as strong as their enforcement. And with billionaires like Jones willing to test the edges, it raises a much bigger question. What happens if the most powerful owners no longer care about the system at all? Because if Jerry gets what he wants, if he trades up, lands Sanders, and turns him into a Cowboys icon, then what's stopping others from doing the same? This could open the floodgates to a new era where top college talent is pursued through back channels and influence campaigns instead of scouting departments and draft boards. The NFL wants control. It wants parity. But legacy-chasing billionaires want headlines, and headlines sell tickets. And Shedeur Sanders is a walking headline. Then there's Dion. He isn't just Shedeur's coach or father. He's a brand himself. A Hall of Famer. A cultural icon. And in today's NFL climate, his influence is enormous. What Dion says, people listen to. His voice carries into locker rooms, boardrooms, and broadcast booths. That influence is part of the package when you pursue Shedeur. And Jerry knows how to use influence. The Dion factor adds a layer of personal politics to all of this. If Dion leans into the Cowboys' narrative, even just symbolically, it could send other teams scrambling. It could pressure the league to intervene, especially if tampering accusations start to surface. But right now, Dion is playing it cool. No direct endorsements. No obvious leanings. But everyone can see the writing on the wall. And that's exactly what makes this story so volatile. There's a deep discomfort within the NFL's regulatory infrastructure. Because while the league can handle trades, salary cap violations, and player discipline, it's not built to manage influence. And influence is exactly what's driving this saga forward. Not paperwork. Not scouting grades. Not combined metrics. It's legacy. It's ego. It's timing. That's where Jerry thrives. He's waiting for that perfect window. An injury, a trade gone wrong, a season collapse, to make his move. And when that happens, don't expect hesitation. Expect fireworks. Because Jones doesn't want to win quietly. He wants to redefine the league while he's doing it. The fallout could be seismic. If Shedeur lands in Dallas, it sends a message. Legacy beats process. Brand trumps rules. And Jerry Jones, once again, gets to shape the league in his image. But if it collapses, if the league clamps down, if the Browns step in, if Dion changes course, then this all becomes a cautionary tale. A reminder that ambition unchecked can lead straight to chaos. And that's where we are now, caught between spectacle and scandal. The NFL is watching. The fans are guessing. And the franchises are calculating. Where does it go next? That depends on who blinks first. If the Browns keep dragging their feet, they'll lose out. If the league decides to take a stand, Jerry's entire plan could unravel. If Shedeur or Dion make a definitive statement, everything shifts. But for now, the silence is deafening, and every second of it favors Dallas. So now it's your turn. What's your take? Is Jerry pulling off the ultimate power move? Or is this all headed for disaster? Should the Browns jump into the bidding war? Or is it already too late? And if Shedeur lands in Dallas, are we witnessing the beginning of a new era or the start of a league-wide unraveling? Drop a comment. Hit like if you're following every twist of this saga like it's a playoff game. Subscribe so you don't miss what happens when legacy, power, and ambition collide, and the NFL scrambles to catch up. Because this isn't just another off-season storyline. This is the future of football, rewritten in real time. We're watching history threaten to repeat itself, but with stakes far higher than they've ever been. Because what Jerry Jones is allegedly doing right now, behind the velvet curtain of NFL respectability, isn't just aggressive. It's legacy-altering, system-breaking, and possibly league-shaking. This isn't just about Shedeur Sanders. It's about what his name, his presence, his potential represents. To Jerry, this isn't just a quarterback. It's an opportunity to immortalize the Cowboys again, to turn America's team into the world's team. He's not just making a football decision. He's making a branding bet. And that's why this whole thing is making the league so nervous. The NFL has always walked a tightrope between sport and spectacle. But Jerry, he's shaking the wire. He's allegedly orchestrating moves so bold, so outside the bounds of normal football operations, that if they work, it'll send shockwaves through every front office from Foxborough to Frisco. Because once a billionaire proves the system can be manipulated, not with rulebooks, but with influence, there's no going back. Everything about this story screams control. Jerry wants to control the Cowboys' next chapter. Dion wants to protect and elevate his son's legacy. The Browns want to control the PR fallout of being almost relevant. And the NFL wants to control the narrative before it gets completely hijacked. But right now, nobody's in control. Let's talk about timing, because that's what's fueling the drama. Jerry doesn't need to move now. In fact, he thrives in limbo. The longer this story hangs in the air, the more pressure it puts on every other player involved. The Browns are already buckling. Reports say there's real dysfunction behind the scenes. Executives split between building slowly or chasing headlines. Some want to play it safe, protect what little consistency they've managed to build. Others see Sanders as the golden ticket out of irrelevance, the PR play that changes the perception of the franchise overnight. That split? It's paralyzing. And Jones knows it. He's watching them hesitate, second-guess, debate. Meanwhile, he's reportedly doing what he does best, cutting deals in the shadows, pushing boundaries, positioning the Cowboys as the inevitable destination for the league's most marketable prospect. It's not official. It's not confirmed. But it doesn't have to be. This kind of story doesn't rely on hard facts. It lives on power moves and silence. The lack of denial is the strategy. And while that plays out, Shedeur is out there playing college ball front and center in the national spotlight, doing post-game interviews like a seasoned pro, with every snap dissected not for scouting value, but for brand trajectory. He's already a star. The NFL just hasn't caught up yet. That's why this story is so dangerous for the league. Because it's exposing just how fragile the NFL systems really are when someone decides not to play nice. There are rules in place to protect fairness, sure. But fairness means nothing when perception, power, and influence move faster than the rulebook. If Jones pulls this off, if he flips the table, skips the line, and lands Sanders in a way that no one saw coming, it won't just be a win for the Cowboys. It'll be a blueprint. Every other powerful owner will be watching, taking notes. And next year, when the next Shedeur-level prospect shows up, don't expect patience. Expect billionaires with playbooks full of back-channel negotiations and marketing forecasts, not scouting reports. This is the beginning of the NFL's next era, and no one's ready. Even Dion, as controlled as he is, can't stop this thing from escalating. His name, his legacy, his role as Shedeur's father and mentor, every part of it adds fuel. And the fact that he hasn't definitively shut anything down, that speaks volumes. Because Dion knows what's at stake. He knows Jerry. They've shared locker rooms. They've shared screens. He knows what happens when someone like Jones decides to go all in. And right now, Dion's playing it smart, staying neutral, publicly focused on Colorado. But in the background, every word he doesn't say is doing just as much as the words he could say. This silence is powerful and dangerous. And the league? It's caught in a corner. Because if it steps in too early, without evidence, it looks like it's trying to protect its structure more than its players. But if it waits too long, and Jones does something undeniably bold, then they're dealing with public backlash, franchise infighting, and a media storm they can't contain. They're waiting for the smoking gun. But Jerry's too smart to leave one. So what now? Now, the speculation gets louder. Now, the Browns start scrambling for a way to get out ahead of the PR disaster. Now, the Cowboys start showing up on ESPN segments, even when they haven't played that week. Now, Shedeur's Instagram becomes a full-blown press cycle. Now, the NFL's elites start whispering in each other's ears about how much longer they can let Jones operate like this without stepping in. And yet, nothing official. That's the beauty of this whole thing. It's all movement without paper, strategy without signatures. And that's why it's so hard to stop. You can't penalize vibes. You can't find rumors. But those rumors are louder than any press release. Even now, there are teams reportedly reevaluating their 2025 draft strategy, not based on position needs, but based on brand alignment. Teams are preparing statements, just in case the Cowboys actually pull this off. Executives are running mock scenarios for what happens if a league opens an investigation. They're calling agents. They're prepping spin. And all of it based on a plan that may or may not officially exist. That's Jerry's superpower. He doesn't have to act. He just has to seem inevitable. And the league hates that. Because this was supposed to be simple. A player like Shedeur, highly skilled, media savvy, was supposed to go through the normal process. Finish college. Enter the draft. Let the chips fall. Maybe Cleveland grabs him. Maybe he slips to another rebuild. But at least it would be clean. Predictable. Instead, we're here, grappling with a situation where the owner of the most visible team in football is allegedly outmaneuvering the league before the game's even begun. And here's the scariest part for the NFL. The fans? A lot of them love it. They want chaos. They want headlines. They want the Cowboys back in the center of the spotlight with a young quarterback who actually fits the hype. They want Dion in the suite. They want Shedeur in primetime. And if a league steps in to stop it, it risks looking like the villain in its own drama. Because whether it's smart or not, whether it's fair or not, Jerry's playing this like a story. And stories sell. This isn't just football anymore. It's theater. It's business. It's ego. And in that space, there's no room for caution. The question now is, what happens next? Does the league intervene before it's too late? Do the Browns finally make a bold move and throw themselves back into the spotlight? Does Dion tip the scales with a single quote? Or does Jerry go silent, wait for the perfect storm, and pounce when no one's looking? Whatever the outcome, one thing's clear. This saga has already changed the way the league operates. The next superstar quarterback won't just be scouted. He'll be recruited. Not by teams, but by owners. Not with film, but with futures. And Shedeur? He's not just the future of a franchise. He's the future of how the NFL thinks. What Jerry Jones is allegedly doing behind closed doors doesn't just shake up a draft class. It threatens to upend the foundational structure of how NFL teams are supposed to operate. When an owner starts maneuvering like a film studio executive, using media leverage, brand momentum, and silent influence to secure a player, that's no longer team building. That's empire building. And that's why the league is frozen. Because if Jerry really is laying the groundwork to land Shedeur Sanders through a web of private strategy, legacy manipulation, and marketing allure, and it works, the NFL has a massive problem. It sends one message to every other power player in the league. Structure is optional if you're rich enough and loud enough. And no one's louder than Jerry. Let's talk about what's really bothering the league behind the scenes. This isn't just a recruiting controversy. This is the NFL's identity being threatened. For decades, the draft was treated like sacred ground. Equal footing. Meritocracy. The thing that separated the NFL from chaos-driven leagues where stars could just buy their way into top teams. But with this Shedeur situation, that structure is wobbling. Because this isn't just a good player being pursued. This is a brand asset being positioned. Jones isn't trying to get a player for a system. He's trying to build the system around the player. And in doing so, he's setting a precedent that shifts power from front offices to ownership PR machines. That's not just new, it's disruptive. The NFL can barely contain its balance of power as is. Quarterbacks already dictate team futures. Agents have more say than some general managers. But now we're looking at a world where billionaire owners are positioning themselves as the lead recruiters, where player decisions aren't made based on football fit, but on branding compatibility. And Jerry's not shy about this. The Cowboys have always been more than a football team. They're a media force, a cash cow, a brand. But that hasn't always translated to winning. Jerry knows it. The critics know it. That's why this Shedeur play is different. It's about turning brand momentum into results. About finding a quarterback whose presence sells out stadiums before he even throws a touchdown. It's why he allegedly doesn't care about the cost. First-round picks? Gone. Roster depth? Worth the risk. If Shedeur becomes the face of a rebranded, dominant Cowboys franchise, it's the kind of legacy move that defines the final chapter of Jerry's career. And let's be honest, Jerry's running out of chapters. That urgency? It's all over this strategy. He's not interested in building slow or waiting his turn. He's chasing one last great power move. And he's betting that Shedeur Sanders is the right name to cement that final piece of the puzzle. Meanwhile, the Browns are over there, watching the whole thing spiral, and doing what Cleveland often does, waffling. They know what Shedeur represents. They see the marketing value, the jersey sales, the potential to finally grab the spotlight from the AFC North's usual suspects. But they can't get out of their own way. They're debating timelines and internal strategy, while Jerry is allegedly preparing to act. And that inaction could cost them everything. Because if this situation explodes, if Jerry somehow skips the line, lands Shedeur, and flips the entire NFL narrative in a single move, Cleveland becomes a punchline again. Not because they were wrong about talent, but because they hesitated. Again. And that's the real tragedy here. Because this whole situation isn't happening in a vacuum. It's being driven by something much bigger than a roster need. It's about power, legacy, control. This is about who gets to shape the future of the league. And right now, it looks like Jerry's writing that story. The league can't ignore this forever. If Jerry's plan goes too far, they'll be forced to intervene. Maybe with an investigation. Maybe with new tampering rules. But the truth is, by the time they move, the damage may already be done. And the next generation of prospects? They'll be watching closely. Because Shedeur isn't just the test case. He's the start of a new NFL dynamic, where owners operate like influencers, players think like CEOs, and the league has to either adapt or get left behind. So what do you think happens next? Does Jerry pull it off and crown a new era for the Cowboys? Or does the league finally grow a backbone and shut this down before it sets fire to the rulebook? Drop your thoughts below. Hit like if this story has you side-eyeing every front office move in the NFL. And make sure to subscribe if you want to stay plugged in as this power play unfolds.